Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking about the lack of passion in the NBA. I don't think it exists anymore, to be frank. But first, before we get into that, let's welcome the panel. NMB Sports, how are you today?
Doing good. Glad to be here as always. Ready to get into it.
Who got it? So you got your terrible Cowboys behind you. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Always ready for some great basketball dialogue, minus the Cowboy slander.
And we got Robin here, Sports and Fitness Rants. How are you, sir?
I mean, listen, I'm a Giants fan. I got my Giants hat on, and they ain't doing too damn good either, man. So I'm right there with you, my man, Hoop God. But
Yes,
yes,
sir.
everybody, once again, man, it's great to be with you guys on another Sunday show. Shout out to my man AOH. Shout out to Hoop God. Shout out to my man NNB Sports. Of course, my man Dart holding it down as usual. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys know the deal. Let's roll.
And we got AOH. How are you, sir?
Good morning, everybody.
I'm just still reeling from watching LeBron's influence carry over to the NFL. We had a 49er walking off the field while the game was still going. So, it's acceptable for everyone now.
Wow, that's wild. Well, and that's one of the things that gets brought to the topic of this. It just seems that the players really don't care about the game of basketball anymore versus what it seemed like back in the past NBA. I think it's evidence with the All-Star game where they're not playing defense. It's super lackadaisical. It's just three-point shots and layups. As you mentioned, AOH, you've got LeBron James just walking off the court saying it's just basketball, also contradicting himself of saying how he's the greatest of all time. I don't think you can be the greatest of all time and then just have that comments after. I don't think it characterizes greatness by saying, "Oh, I don't care about the game." And I think just the fandom, the evidenced by us and others, have just lost a lot of the zeal for watching the NBA. I mean, I went and I watched a couple games earlier this year. I saw some massive floppings. I even made a comment. I said it looks like it was actually a LeBron game. I said that it looks like he's in the WWE how hard he flopped. And he just fell on the ground and break falled hard. But it's just something that drives me crazy. I don't understand what the deal is surrounding the NBA. And I don't think that it's something that can be sustainable to continue the growth of the organization at large. Nick, what's your take on the passion surrounding the NBA?
Well, I'm gonna kind of channel Rex here a little bit. Something that he always says, and it comes back a lot, is the NBA is such a big business now. It is a for-profit, for entertainment product, correct? And Rex harps on that a lot. And I used to say there's a lot of truth to that, but I kind of just didn't think it was sometimes the crux of the issue. But again, the bigger things get, people have to pander and they have to worry about their image more. And guys make life-changing money right out of the gate. How much does that affect your passion? And then I would overlap that with social media and the banana boat culture that we've talked about a lot, where, if you just look at something like defense, right? To play good, hard defense on someone, you kind of have to not like them in a way, if that makes sense, right? To really get up in someone's face, you're trying to get in their head. You can't really like the guy. And I think a lot of that stems from players want all the other players to like them. And again, that kind of goes with the money and the image, just to kind of overlap the two. And so that's my quick dissection or analysis of what is the current sort of murdered body of the NBA that we're trying to look at right now. So that's where I'll start, and then obviously there's several things that go along with that, right? So, but I'll start there.
Wow, another terrible take by Nick. I can't wait to address this.
Hey, wait, what do you got to say about it since you brought it up?
It's not necessarily Nick's take, but it's the whole blaming that it's an entertainment business thing. I remember whenever people were first, oh well, it is an entertainment industry. But when do people think that that changed? When you have a motto that says it's fantastic, you're obviously doing it for the fans, and you're not going to have fans if it's not entertaining. Competition is entertaining. When did people forget that good competitive sports is what drew the people there in the first place? The sport isn't the problem. You don't have to put in gimmicks if your core product is good. That's like serving shit for dinner and having a fancy wine next to it and trying to convince people that the dinner is good. That's all.
Well,
That always
yeah,
makes it better.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said I think the main part that people hate about today's game is the banana boat culture. That's my opinion, that everyone wants to be liked by everyone, and so therefore you can't get chippy. And you notice who are the most chippy, kind of aggressive guys? It tends to be Europeans now, or guys outside of the U.S. who don't really care about that so much. But I think a lot of the guys here in the U.S., social media is such a big thing. I think this is driving a lot of everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants to be on the next super team, and you can't rub anyone the wrong way, that kind of stuff, right? And I just think that's kind of blossomed with the 80s and 90s. Jordan, the money became so big. There are now so many more interests. That's kind of what I was just saying. And I think we agree, though, like with some of the way that the game is portrayed and how they want to do it, it is kind of trying to funnel a certain character and filter out certain things they don't want guys to be, right? So that's all I'll say.
It's just so interesting that we have this friendly thing going on, but at the same time, they also get butthurt at the slightest things and then pretend like they want to go at each other. Like I always see, oh, there's an altercation between so and so. And if I make the mistake of clicking on it, you realize there wasn't really ever an altercation. None of them are ever going to do shit. But their feelings are getting hurt left and right. They don't really act like true friends, but yet you have the friendly, non-competitive nature of it. It's the worst combination of both sides of that.
Yeah.
What's up, Robin? You got something on the tip of your tongue, it looks like.
Well, I think what Nick is trying to allude to is, or what I think that he's trying to make more of a claim. When you talk about entertainment and we're talking about the players, and the guys and how much money they make now, and, how Rex is always trying to say that it's a business. It's a business. It was always a business, though. It was always entertainment. I think what Nick is speaking to is how the players today have become more actors than professional athletes. That's what we have now. And I think that's what he's really getting to. And I think that's the problem for these guys. They're not necessarily professional athletes at the highest level. And so what happens is when we hold them to that same standard, or we hold them to that, accountability level of a professional athlete, then all of a sudden, when the guys are not showing up to games, they're load managing. That's not what a professional athlete did back in the day. That's what actors do. Actors are the ones that act like that. Oh, I'm going to take off. I'm not coming out of my trailer today to act because I don't feel like it. That's what actors do. Paid actors, celebrities. And that's what these guys have focused more on, the celebrity of their nature. So what do we get as fans? We get the load managing. How? Because guys now are more worried, instead of pushing through a little slightly nicks and bruises or sprained ankles or things of that nature, now they're going to protect themselves. They're not going to go out there on the court and give that all. They're not going to play with that passion that you're talking about, Dart, that the guys back in the day did. So when we talk about entertainment, make no mistake about it, the players back in the day entertained us. They were out there to entertain the fans. That's why they went out there during the All-Star games. That's why they showed up for 82 games more often than not, because they wanted to go out there and showcase their talents for the fans, right? So they're going out there and entertaining us. The problem has been, like I said, they're entertaining now as actors. What do we see in society? Everyone now is what? A reality star. So when you talk about the golden era of the NBA, and we talk about the golden era of movies, for example, the golden era of movies was back in like the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, when you had guys like Humphrey Bogart and, these kinds of people acting. But why do they call it the golden era? It's not necessarily that these guys were so great or so much greater of actors, right? Denzel Washington's an amazing actor, right? Samuel L. Jackson's an amazing actor, right? Tom Hanks is an amazing actor, but they weren't in the golden era of acting. But what happens now is the overall sense. So when we talk about the NBA, we said that the 80s and 90s is the golden era of NBA. It's not necessarily just because these guys are greater than the guys today, or they were so much more skilled, or things of that nature. It's the overall sense that you had. Why? Because of the overall games of those guys. They worked on the fundamentals, right? The guys today, they don't have the fundamentals, so the entertainment is not the same.
Hoop God, what do you got to say about this? You got anything to add what Robin was saying, or you got a different take?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just echoing what Nick and AOH and Sports and Fitness has already expressed. I mean, if you look at it, number one, it's the guaranteed contract. So just that aspect alone, it's not going to incentivize you to go out and try to earn, the pay that you would deserve, because they're paying you up front now. To me, which is just because I think Michael Jordan was talking about this. I forgot who was interviewing him, but he told him, he said, see, when I was playing, we had to earn our pay. He said Magic, myself, Barkley, so on and so forth. Like,
You cut out?
Out of money. Oh, can you hear me?
No, it sounded like you cut out on my end. It might have just been me, though.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I might be lagging a little bit. But Michael Jordan had said this, he told him, he said that if you pay these guys up front, they're going to lose their incentive to go out and work hard to earn their pay, which, like Nick said, is going to drive down the competitive nature, because in their mind, they don't feel like they have to go out and compete because they've already been paid. They got guaranteed money. And then if you add in this whole load management, which is just asinine, because I know a lot of people want to say, oh, well, the Spurs did it. No, they put their players on minute restrictions. Now, yeah, there were certain games they didn't play, but they already had a playoff spot locked in. Like, if you're already locked in the playoffs, okay, you probably don't need to play your top guys against a bottom feeder team. Like, that just makes sense. But no, now these guys are just complaining about back-to-backs. Like, wait a minute. So you won't complain about the money, but you will complain about paying? But I guarantee you that would not happen under David Stern's tutelage. Like, no, there's no way he would allow that to happen. Adam Silver, he's a little, too liberal. He's too progressive. Like, he wants to be friends without telling the players, no, there's a hierarchy, okay? I'm going to call the shots and I'm going to ultimately hold you responsible. No, he wants to see, hey, guys, we can work together. No, because the fact that we have an in-season tournament,
All right.
Kill me, who got?
Mr. Technical Difficulties, shoot God.
yeah, I think I lagged out again.
Okay, let's come back. Yeah, let's come back to you in a minute. No, I totally agree, especially with the money aspect of it, putting it all together and just saying, well, you're just going to get this because we see the potential in you, especially with the rookie contracts. I think that that's one of the things that really turns them away to not being as competitive, because they immediately become millionaires. And one guy, I think, is evident too, even though he got his secondary contract, or he signed a contract afterwards, is Ben Simmons. What happened after he went and he got all this money, the hundreds of millions of dollars? He started getting depressed and he had all these injuries that just wasn't able to keep him up into playing the game. And then he goes and he just completely falls apart all of a sudden. He gets criticized because he passed off a ball to when Trae Young was guarding him. And then people just jumped on his back. And then all of a sudden he couldn't play basketball anymore. But there's another thing too within the court that I think really has made a lot of people unpassionate. And for me, especially when I play basketball, I generally played a low post guy because I'm a larger guy, or the rebounder. And I think that needs a lot more passion versus what I've seen with what is trending within the NBA, where they just chuck up 3-point shots. It seems like it. They're putting up 50 3-point shots a game. That's half their possessions. Where's the grit? Where's the grind? Where's the passion? It looks just like a shooting contest, or that you're not even playing anyone half the time that they put these things up, because it seems a lot of the time the defense isn't even really guarding them that hard while they're putting them up in the first place. So what do you all think about that? How about Robin? What do you think about all that?
You made a good point right there, Dart, at the end there about the defense not being that great. So how great are what these guys are doing? It makes, like, so you know what's crazy is like they'll say like what the guys did back in the day was nothing. Oh, Michael Jordan this or this guy that or whatever the case may be. But if you start looking into things, if you really know the game, then it's actually quite remarkable what some of these guys were able to do. So, for example, if Michael Jordan is averaging literally every season 31, 32 points a game for his career, that's pretty amazing. But it's even more amazing when you think about the Bulls maybe only averaging 100 points a game during some of those seasons, maybe even less. So when you break that down, what does that equal? It means that he's averaging a third of the Bulls' total points almost every season. When we talk about carrying your team offensively, there's no more evidence that I need to point to than something like that. These are the kinds of things that we're talking about. So when they talk about these guys and we talk about the physicality, Nick, you mentioned rivalries earlier and how this, the intensity and the physical nature of the game created the rivalries. I've done several videos talking about this stuff. When you talk about the passion, all the effort that those guys gave back in the day, man, that's what led to those rivalries. If Larry Bird wasn't known for his grit and his toughness, there would be no rivalry with Dr. J. There would be no incidents when they're going back and forth with each other and Dr. J is choking him and trying to punch him in the face. You wouldn't have those scenarios. You wouldn't have Larry Bird wrestling around with Bill Laimbeer and Dennis Rodman. You wouldn't have Michael Jordan going back and forth with Xavier McDaniel and Patrick Ewing and the Detroit Pistons. You wouldn't have that because the game wouldn't have been able to give us that. So when you talk about the level of physicality and the passion, the effort, the grit, the heart of a lot of these guys, they got paid money. A lot of the big time players, they were getting paid a lot of money. But you know what they had? They had a sense to go out there and prove that they were deserving of that money. So they were out there for the 82 games. I keep telling people the same thing. A lot of these clowns out here, these fake NBA fans, they're not real fans of the NBA. They're only fans of a player. But they'll always say things like, oh, Michael Jordan doesn't know who you are. Or, maybe they'll say to Nick, Dirk Nowitzki doesn't know who you are. He don't care about you, blah, 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 blah. It's not about that. You know how Dirk Nowitzki showed Nick and the Dallas Maverick fans that he respected them and he appreciated them? You know how he showed it? By going out there every goddamn night. That's how he showed them that he appreciated them. He didn't have to do it. Dirk Nowitzki could have sat out nights. He could have said, oh, I got mental stress. My wife is giving me a hard time. Or my mom is sick. Or my dad is this. They could always make these excuses. But those guys didn't do that. When people tell me, oh, you're a Michael Jordan lover, you're a Jordashian, blah, 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 Michael Jordan doesn't know who you are, he don't give a damn about you. I've never once ever said that I know Michael Jordan, that I've ever hugged him or gave him a handshake. Michael Jordan would have walked right past me if he saw me in the street. I wouldn't be able to get within 100 feet of that man. But that's not how he shows that he respects me as a fan of him, of basketball. He showed us by going out there and playing every night. So yes, he got paid the money, but he also had a sense that I had to go out there and prove that I was deserving to get that money. The guys today are getting paid. When you mention Ben Simmons, it's not just about him not developing his game. It's his lack of, he refuses to develop the game. He refuses. It's not like he's working hard every day and the game's just not coming. It's not developing. Okay. He don't even want to do the work, and that's the slap in the face.
What do you got to say about this, Hoop God? Have you gotten your computer back up?
I don't know. Maybe I'll have a better success like this, but no. I mean, sports and fitness. He's absolutely correct. Another point I was going to speak on was it's just it's a 3-point contest. Like there's just certain teams I just can't watch. Now I can watch the Nuggets because they have a more free flowing style of offense. I can watch the Golden State. I can tolerate the Kings, but there's not many more. It's like when they come down, it's kind of like, yo, you have other options outside of the three. Now I will say, I watched the Cup semifinals, just to kind of check it out, and I actually enjoyed what I saw with the Bucks and the Hawks. That they were actually playing a little bit gritty defense. Giannis, he had a phenomenal block on Clint Capella, like that type of stuff. I like to see that effort, but it's sad that you have to watch that in an in-season tournament format versus the regular season. Just like when Curry and Clay, I watched that game because I wanted to see the dynamics, right? And Nick spoke on this. Now, Steph Curry and Clay are the Splash Brothers teammates, but on that court, you couldn't really tell those guys liked each other. Because, Clay, he hit a shot and do the little shimmy. Curry, he come back, get a shot, and he's talking a little smack. I'm like, that's what people want to see. Okay, they don't want to see all this, no, I'm a be gentle and I'm gonna be cautious. They're like, nah, man, go out there and go at somebody. That's what we want to see. And it's sad that they're doing that in the WNBA now. They're actually playing and utilizing every aspect of scoring. They're actually going out there and competing and just showing that competitive nature. It's mind blowing that Adam Silver had to create a freaking in-season tournament just to get these guys to compete. And not even mentioning the damn play-in tournament to make those bottom feeders actually come out and compete at the end of the season. It's just ridiculous. I mean, that upfront money and just being so, I guess, passive with them, not holding them accountable and being stern. It's kind of like, the ratings are, you can even look at it in the ratings, like it's just steady on a decline. And it's like, this is just embarrassing. So that's all I had on that.
AOH, what do you got to say? AOH.
Muted.
Oh, he's muted. Okay. I didn't mute him, I don't think. No, it's he chose to mute himself. Anyway, Nick, what do you got to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the issue is how do we get these guys to play? That's, I guess, my question, or what I'm curious at is we're all kind of hinting on passion and all these things, and I think we all kind of see the same picture overall. What I know they put in, what was it, the 65 game minimum to be a part of awards or whatever. I just don't know. The money is so big and these guys have so much sway and influence and leverage now. I just don't, how do we reel them back in, or how do we, what has to be done? I think, to be honest with you, I don't really have a good answer. I really can't come up with any. I think ultimately that's why I kind of said with the in-season tournament, whatever, let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens, right? But, and obviously with that being said, we shouldn't be here. But, what do we do? Where, if you were the commish, what would you do? How do you, I don't know. How do you change the culture? I have no idea.
AOH, are you still muted yourself?
I'm here. I couldn't hear any of you guys, so I left and came back in. I don't know if that was just Hoops God or if it was everything. But yeah, as far as locking down friends, I'm sure all of us here have played defense against a friend and played hard defense. Hoops God said something interesting, though. You know how some people blame the three-pointer, or not just blame the three-pointer, but blame Steph Curry for ruining the game because of the three-pointer. It was interesting that Hoops God pointed out the Warriors as a fun team to watch. How can Steph Curry have ruined the game if that's one of the teams that's worth watching? They may shoot the three ball, and yet you still have more team basketball going on there in a lot of cases. They have some nice ball movement. I wish that they had a center to utilize more. I would enjoy that. But I just thought that was something worth grabbing hold of and pointing out, that a team that some people want to blame this on is a team that people still enjoy watching. And I would like to ask, I don't know what the answer is, but do you guys know the history of the guaranteed contracts and how they spiraled out of control?
Not specifically. I don't. I think that I don't want to spit out misinformation because I'm uninformed with the specifics. If I had to say when it started happening, I would say it probably started happening in the 80s or 90s, though, but I'm unsure.
Well, the hard salary cap didn't come into the mid 80s, so I'm assuming teams just started overpaying for prospects, essentially, like first rounders and stuff. It probably just ballooned from there. But go ahead, sorry.
Well, things are getting so bad. Teams are going to have to start saying, well, this player won't sign if we don't give him a guaranteed contract, but the percentage of players that don't play after they get a guaranteed contract is so high that we're just going to say, screw them. We may miss out on a couple of stars, but we're not doing guaranteed contracts anymore. They just aren't panning out.
Yeah,
so I was going to ask.
What's up, Hoop God? You can go for it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask real quick. So when did the player empowerment start? Because I believe that's what necessitated the guaranteed contracts and hey, we deserve a voice. Because if you guys remember, right, I think Draymond said this, which was just idiotic. He was like, we should change the name from owner to governor. Like, what? No. He's the owner because he has the resources and he's able to attain that position. Now, I would have challenged him back by saying, hey, Draymond, who forced you to sign that contract? No, you don't sign on to a contract willingly and then say, no, we need to change the name from owner to governor. No, get out of here with that nonsense. See, that's the problem. This player empowerment are actually giving these players way too much ability to speak their mind rather than saying, no, you're a player. You have a role. You have a responsibility. Go out there and maximize that. Stop trying to dictate to people that is above your pay grade. That is my problem. But I just wanted to say that part.
Yeah, they're employees.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, they're just employees, but they have the blessing of getting to play basketball as their job. And now they're playing the victim card. I'm like, you're blessed beyond most people's dreams, and you're playing the victim card.
I was going to say, this might be a bit of a hot take, but do you remember when Peyton Manning and LaDainian Tomlinson got drafted and essentially Eli Manning, and essentially like his dad, essentially they were like, we are not going to the Chargers. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I that might be a bit of a hot take, but I feel like that was like the first domino where a star player, two players, and he essentially just said, I'm not going to do it. What are you going to do, right? I'm going to be a pain in the ass. I'm going to completely make it not worth your time. Just do what I don't want to go here, right? And that with the guaranteed money, I think is a big part of it because the complete motivation and incentive, how to incentivize players completely goes out the window essentially. So, but yeah, I just remember, I remember that. And that always stuck with me as like the first time I remember like a big name guy being like, I'm just not doing it,
I thought that Kobe came with some sort of a threat like that he was only going to play for the Lakers.
Well, there's also
go ahead.
JJ Redick said it on the him and LeBron podcast, or his interview for the coaching job on the LA Lakers, is that the Oscar Robertson in respect to free agency, this is similar to what's being talked about, was really that JJ Redick said this is what he said to talk about history of the NBA, is about how Oscar Robertson was able to get them a filthy amount of money. But in respect to free agency, yeah. What's up, Robin?
I mean, you guys are saying a lot of good stuff here, man. You guys do out some good things, man. We talk about player empowerment. To me, I always called it a player entitlement. The player empowerment came from Michael Jordan's era. It was Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, right? Those guys that were marketable, that you saw in the commercials, that you saw in the movies. Remember Little Penny in those commercials? That's called marketability. You remember Grant Hill. Grant Hill sneakers, when Grant Hill came out, Grant Hill sneakers were more popular than Michael Jordan sneakers, man. There were people at my school getting robbed, people stealing people's Grant Hill sneakers from their gym lockers, man. There's marketability, man. These guys had personalities. They had games. You can market these guys, man. That's the way the game was played, man. That's what they did back in those days, man. So the money was there. So the problem for these guys today is that they can make more money off the court now. They get so much money off the court, and you don't have to be a great player to get the money. Back in the day, you had to actually have game. You had to be, think about the guys that we're mentioning. We're mentioning the top 10, 15 guys in the NBA back in the 80s and the 90s. These are the guys that were being marketed as the best players in the league. They were the guys with the sneakers. They were the guys with the commercials. They were the guys making the appearances in movies. Now everyone is in a commercial. Draymond Green is making Kia car commercials. How the hell is Draymond Green doing Kia car commercials? These are things that we're alluding to. There's no way anyone really believes that Draymond Green is such a great basketball player to the level that he should have his own commercials. His own commercials? He's up there with guys like Patrick Mahomes. He's on there with guys like LeBron James and Steph Curry, Draymond Green. Like, what are we doing here, man? So when you talk about these guys making this money off the court and the money that they're making, and Nick, you asked a great question. How do you get the guys to reel them back in, like you said? It's on them. It's always going to be on the players, man. This is why I said earlier, they become more actor than professional athlete. That's where we've gone now. So these guys I say all the time on my channel, these guys are now professionals. Because being a professional has nothing just to do with your skills. Yes, you play in a professional league because that's the top of your league. You're a professional in that regard. But there are a lot of professionals. Police officers are professionals. There are doctors who are professionals. Attorneys, teachers are professionals. You could be a professional mailman. You could be a professional security guard, man. Being a professional is how you do your job. The standard that you hold yourself to. That's what being a professional is. You know what being a professional is? Showing up to work for 82 games because you signed your name on a contract, man. Don't be an actor and worried about, oh, I don't want to hurt my knee anymore, so I'm going to sit out these next 2 weeks, or I'm going to do this, or I'm taking a mental break, but I'm going to go hang out with Khloe Kardashian and the rest of these fools. These guys won't play in the game, but then you see them on, a TMZ later on hanging out in a strip joint. How the hell are you supposed to sell that to the fans?
You just made me think about an analogy to actors, and actors getting paid a lot of money, but actors starting to say, "Hey, I gotta load manage my throat. I've been delivering too many lines."
And real quick, just to kind of echo that, I was talking about, it becomes a business and the money overlaid with social media. That's another thing, right? Is that guys, I can just be a personality now, or if a company wants to work with me, I have to have a good image, right? I don't think Gatorade came and offered Ron Artest many sponsorship deals after the Malice in the Palace, right? So, and stuff like that, right? So it kind of all like overlays with each other. This whole banana boat image. I have to be an actor in a way, right? And I can get all this money off the court. And within 2 or 3 years, I'm set for life, right? If I know what I'm doing, or at least in my head, even if I blow it later. But yeah, I just wanted to echo that.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the players right now, guys, coming on YouTube with their podcasts. They're coming into the space that's supposed to be for the people, for the commoners, and they're elbowing their way in, and they're basically telling us to shut up because we didn't play in the league. So they're trying to take over this space. They're trying to take over the basketball talk. Who wants to listen to Draymond Green? But he has thousands of people listening to him on his podcast, man. It's a joke.
Well, and we're gonna reach the point to where we can say they didn't play in the league either. They got signed. got the money, and didn't play.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, and look at it like this, guys. Let's be honest. To me, this is what I'm saying. And correct me if this is inaccurate. Paul George, all right, Playoff P, is a full-time podcaster. He's a part-time basketball player.
Word.
Podcast P.
Right on the money, who got?
Yeah, real quick, you'd mentioned Dirk too. I remember coming up, and I wish Dirk had been in so many more commercials. I wish he would have been better marketed, but that's just not who he was, right? That's just not who he was. And looking back now, I think, well, what if he really had tried to overplay his hand a little bit, right? I probably would have soured a little bit, or it wouldn't have been quite the same. It wouldn't have been as authentic, and maybe it would have taken away from his game a little bit and his focus on the court, right? And just that's the thing. It's like, I hate these guys who live up to a character and actor, however you guys kind of want to see it, right? And they're kind of just doing it for a show and for the money, and just kind of be who you are. And like, largely, if you are a professional athlete, right, you are super competitive. You have to be on some level. And it feels like with everything we just mentioned, it feels like a lot of times we kind of already said this, I'm just reiterating it, but these guys kind of put a lid on what they're allowed to express or how hard they want to go. Sometimes I feel like, or they're always trying to just not show any emotion. If something happens, it's competitive. It just doesn't feel real. Like, I think that's why a lot of people like Patrick Beverley, right? Love him or hate him. Patrick Beverley just seems like he's out there because he just loves to run around the court and be an absolute maniac, right? Whether you like it or hate it, right? But he at least somewhat on the court comes off like he is who he is, man. He just is who he is, right?
I want to say something in respect to the could we be wrong? Are we just not passionate enough of the modern NBA and what it is? Do we have any fault in how the NBA has become? Because we're not particularly us on this show, but is it because the people aren't speaking up about what they want to see more? Or why does it seem that there's a lack of passion surrounding the NBA at large? Because I was talking with Steam Engine, and he brought up a good point in the Precision Hoops group chat. he brought up, why does nobody care about the Celtics winning the championship last year? Why in sports media is it not being brought up that they, as much as it was in the past with the LeBron James and the Steph Currys and the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants? Why does it seem that people are disinterested? Yeah, Nick, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like last year, I guess looking back, right, they just ran the gauntlet from beginning to end. And so it was just kind of like, in my opinion, it was a very an anticlimactic ending, right? And so it's almost like they had won the championship before the playoffs had even started, right? I think that's what it felt like. I think that's why people aren't entirely intrigued. The show last year, not to toot my own horn, but the show last year was the Western Conference and the Mavericks. Now, again, we didn't win. I'm not trying to say that's better than what the Celtics did. I'm just saying that it just felt like the Celtics were the team from front to start, and they kind of got the Mavs, I think, at a bad time. Not making excuses. They were the better team, 100%. But it just kind of felt anticlimactic, right? They just everyone kind of knew it from the beginning that, this was the team. I think a lot of people wanted to see Oklahoma and Boston or Minnesota and Boston, which is fair. I can kind of understand that a little bit, but it just felt like they won it once, like from beginning to end, right? That's kind of what it felt like to me looking back, and it just kind of was. They were them from the beginning, and I think people just don't get hyped about it.
Hey, wait.
I don't think that there was that problem when the Lakers ran the gauntlet in 2001. I think everybody knew what was going to happen that year. They almost went undefeated in the entire playoffs. You kind of saw it coming, but I don't think that there was a drop off in viewership. I think it's the people that are on the court not being very likable. But I'm gonna start talking about the decline of society. We have people that have started to embrace these clowns. Nick mentioned earlier how Ron Artest wouldn't get an endorsement after Malice in the Palace. Today he might.
He might, yeah.
Today
that's
he might.
true.
Look at Draymond Green. What the fuck is that guy on TV a second longer for with his behavior?
Yeah. Robin, what do you say about all this? Is there any fault in the people of why the NBA sucks?
Well, I mean, listen, I don't know if it's necessarily the fans. I mean, because you see now some of the interactions with the fans and the players has reached kind of a tipping point, I guess, where the players have become so sensitive. You have guys having fans ejected, from the stands, and, people are making burner accounts to go back and forth on social media. Everyone, like I said, now these guys use their podcast, that platform they have on their podcast, to basically crap on us. They literally will just crap on the fans every chance that they get, and they'll say things once again like, oh, these guys don't know, they didn't play, these guys this, these guys that. I mean, I saw a thing with Tua Tagovailoa maybe a week or so ago where he's talking a post-game press conference, and they're asking about some bonehead play that he made in the game where he tried to throw the football out of the back of the end zone, and he completely, muffed it up, and he looked like a goof out there. And his response was, yeah, it looks easier when you're sitting on your butt on the couch eating potato chips. So essentially what he's saying is he's crapping on the common folk out there that have an opinion on how stupid he looked during that play. And for him to say that is disgusting because, once again, they're right on the money. You look like a goof. You're a professional athlete. So, of course, you should look more professional. You should look more athletic out there, and you look like a goof. But these guys can't take any of this stuff. I'm telling you right now, it's really sad that in society and for a lot of these professional athletes, they want to be able to make whatever moves they make, say whatever they want to say, do whatever they want to do, go there, go here, and they want no pushback. They want no one to have an opinion on it. They want no one to criticize them. None of this stuff. You even see them getting snippy now with reporters who ask legit questions. I love Giannis, man. I did a video earlier about him, but I'll never forget not last year, the year before, I think it was, when Giannis is the Milwaukee Bucks. They got eliminated in the first round by the Miami Heat, right? They got beat 4-1 as the number 1 seed. In the post-game press conference, the guy asked him, was your season a failure? Do you consider the season a failure? And here goes Giannis. Michael Jordan played in the league for 15 years, but he only won 6 championships. So the other years was failures for Michael Jordan? Like, dude, you brought up a terrible example. Yes, if you ask Michael Jordan if the other years that he didn't win a championship were failures, Michael Jordan's going to tell you, yes, they were failures. But it wasn't just about that. It's the fact that Michael Jordan never got knocked out of a playoff round as a number 1 seed to a number 8 seed. So Michael Jordan was interviewed in a post game after his team just got eliminated, and they said, "Hey, Michael Jordan, do you feel like your season was a failure?" He would say, "Yeah, you're damn right. We didn't get it done, man. We were a number 1 seed and we lost to a number 8 seed, man." So these are a lot of things that we're talking about. You know, when we talk about, you mentioned earlier about the teams. And you mentioned earlier about, can we watch this team? You talk about the Boston Celtics and, maybe why no one's really, getting behind them or promoting them. I think some of the problems with the Celtics was, first, the playoff run that they went on last year was kind of fraudulent. Every team that they played against essentially had their main player out for several games, if not the entire series, right? You think Halliburton and, Donovan Mitchell went down, and, some of the other guys that went down on their route to the championship, not necessarily taken away from them. Then you think about the NBA Finals. It was kind of anticlimactic. The way the Mavericks were playing coming into the finals, you thought it was going to go a different way, or that there was going to be more of a closer series. But it wasn't really a close series. But also you must think about, I think a lot of people are in a wait and see with the Boston Celtics. So do we really believe? Remember, they did get a lot of hype about being a great team. I saw a lot of people promoting the Celtics as one of the greatest teams of all time, and I laughed about this because they talked about all the great players and how great of a team they were. Because you had these guys on the same team for several years. You had Al Horford there for years, Jason Tatum there for years, Jaylen Brown there for years. That's how you build a team up. But are we going to see a great team? Because if you think about the last 5 champions, they've been fraudulent, man. Not necessarily fraudulent, but they haven't been consistent. So what do we see? The Lakers win the championship in 2020. They get bounced out in the first round the next season. Don't even make the playoffs the next year after that. Let's think about the Milwaukee Bucks. They win the championship the next season. They have a bad showing the last couple of years. Giannis has been in and out of the lineup in the postseason. So they haven't really been as contenders. Right? You think about the Golden State Warriors. They won a championship. Have they been contenders since? No, they've been decent team. They've been there. But does anyone think the Golden State Warriors are a title contender, really? Last couple of years, they weren't. And you think about the Denver Nuggets. Same thing with them. They win the championship, and then you really haven't seen them around to be in the finals again. So what are the Celtics going to do, man? Where's the rest of the consistency with these teams?
Hoop guy, do you think if you want to add anything on to what's said, but to bring it back in a little bit, do you think there's some blame that the fans should have in respect to the passion surrounding the NBA?
Well, when you say blame to the fans, the only blame that I would give certain fans are the ones who cross the line, when it comes to, because my thing is you're going to get heckled, right? That's just human nature. But I think there should be a boundary that shouldn't be crossed when you're doing that. Okay. Let me say that first. Yeah, I do think there should be some blame with the fans. And I'm talking about the ones who try to, build up these analytics, because I see these guys, these quote unquote journalists and analysts on TV. That's all they want to talk about is offensive win shares and box plus minus, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's fine. That's nice. That's dandy. That's not going to always determine the outcome of not only that, but when you're using these metrics, please be specific and use them comparatively, because they will try to take a center or a forward advanced stats and compare them to a guard or a shooting guard, which they're going to be at a disadvantage. But that's the part I don't like. The guys who want to consistently try to use these advanced analytics when we're talking about basketball first, okay? Because if I see you hadn't watched the game, don't talk to me about no damn analytics. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. And real quick, Dart, I wanted to speak on a guy. Let me see, because he made a comment. I was kind of waiting on it. He said Draymond Green is playing like how we want the league to go back to. No, okay? Draymond Green does unnecessary shot, dirty tactics. No, that's not what we want. Whoever the guy, Young Disciple, he put this comment down here. We want to see
that guy's a clown of all clowns.
Goodness.
We want to see good-natured, competitive guys going out there and playing good basketball. Okay, if we want to see Draymond Green, we can go to the WWE. All right, that's essentially what he's doing. We don't want to see that. Okay, we just want to see guys go out and compete like the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks did in that in-season tournament. That's what I call good, high-quality basketball. You don't see any foul baiting. You don't see any flopping. You don't see any of that. Just going out there and just playing great basketball and living with the results. That's what we want to see. But no, back to what you said, Dart. Yeah, I think it's a certain
Oh
responsibility.
no.
Yes,
God.
Can I
just
invite you
just
guys
a
to?
certain just a certain.
Sorry,
What's up,
everybody
Baywatch?
disappeared.
What's up, Baywatch?
I'm going to invite you guys to envision something. Envision an excuse-making bitch like young disciple actually
Oh
playing
my God.
basketball with someone who played like Draymond Green. How long would that last? How long would that little pussy last on a court with somebody that is playing the way that he's pretending to praise them for playing? It's not going to happen. Stop pretending that you are behind any of these players just because you have this idiotic narrative in your mind that the old heads want it to be physical again. None of us have ever said we want you to be a mouthy, cheap shot taking piece of dog trash. It's completely different. And you couldn't play against real physical basketball players or cheap shot basketball players. So stop pretending that you're behind either of them.
You know, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I want to say something real quick. We talk about the fans these days. What is the average fan these days? And I'll give a few examples because we talk a lot about how the NBA tends to market players over teams these days, and there's not a lot of good rivalries. Players move around, et cetera, right? Well, if we kind of think what has happened in the NBA the last 20 years, it has ballooned globally, right? And for example, if you are from Germany and Dirk was playing and you are a basketball fan, not probably within a 95% confidence rate, he is their favorite player. Yao Ming, if you are of Asian descent or from China and you are a basketball fan in the US or globally, Yao Ming is probably your favorite player, right? And so I think just to it was a little angle to think about is that as the NBA is more global, it kind of does make a little sense that the NBA would want to market players from that regard. That I think that kind of feeds on each other, that if we can market this one guy, it opens up a whole new market over here, right? I just was thinking about that as we were talking about it. What is the average fan today? It's really changed over the last 20 years, right? It's much more global. And because of that, right, I can see if I had to be devil's advocate, right, marketing players from that perspective makes a little bit of sense, right? Not saying it's right or wrong, but I could see the logic there and kind of things we were talking about.
You know, I just want before Nick went, I wanted to just touch on, you know, what you guys were saying when you're talking about the fans. And you're making that statement, Dart. I think you're on the money. I don't think. I mean, think about it. We're labeled as quote unquote old heads. We're not necessarily the fans that are tearing down the NBA. The fans that we're always alluding to, the ones that I talk about on my channel, are fans like Nick is mentioning of particular players. They're only fans of the player. But the problem is, we were fans of players too back in the day. I was fans of Michael Jordan. I was fans of a lot of guys, man. I love Magic Johnson. I love Dennis Rodman. I love Charles Barkley. He was one of my favorite players, man. I love Kevin Johnson. There were a lot of guys that I liked. I liked Shaquille O'Neal, man. There were so many guys that we were fans of, but we were also fans of them. Why? Because of their games and their difference in the games. When you're talking about the guys today, how can you be a fan of one guy, then be a fan of another guy, or be a fan of this team or that team when everyone's doing everything the damn same? You know, when you think about the Phoenix Suns, for an example, right? If you remember the Phoenix Suns in those mid-2000s, what was the cool thing about the Phoenix Suns? They were different than everybody else. What they were doing with Steve Nash and all the shooters around, the Mike D'Antoni system, right? They were up there running and gunning, man. They were the high-flying offense, right? They were trying to score within the first, 6 seconds of the shot clock or whatever the case may be. They wanted to get shots up. That was the way they played. But what made the Phoenix Suns so great is because it wasn't that they were doing what everyone else was doing. They were doing something different. So yes, you may have had other teams that were trying to emulate what they were doing, trying to mimic what they were doing, but by and large, the NBA had a balance. You know, what I remember about the 90s, the Eastern and the Western Conference, by and large, the Eastern Conference was known for physical play, for being hard-nosed defensive conference, for being more of a low-scoring games. And the Western Conference was known for more of a high-scoring games. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't West Coast teams that played defense. The Utah Jazz were always a formidable defensive team, even though they were in the Western Conference. But you also had teams like the Seattle Supersonics that would get up and down the court. You had teams like the Denver Nuggets that would get up and down the court. You had a lot of these teams teams. The Eastern Conference was more known for physical defense, hard-nosed, and physical play. That's the way the game was back in the day. It was called a balance, man. Now everyone is the Phoenix Suns out there, and that's the problem.
I have a very scary vision of the future because these players have been paid so much that it's going to be possible for several of them to become owners. And then they will take that entitled player mentality and transfer it to ownership, and it'll be an entire league of just explaining to everybody that their team isn't actually crap and that there's nothing wrong with losing, and we're still supposed to be entertained by an entire league of mediocre sports.
Yeah.
Too much money, way too much money going to these guys, and they're not adults. Like Sports and Fitness Rants was talking about the snotty remarks when a reporter asks them a legit question about a bad play. Part of becoming an adult is learning to take criticism and responding in a dignified manner, especially when you're actually wrong. And when you're wrong, you still can't take ownership and admit it and would rather just like make a snide remark. Yeah, I don't think these people ever reached adulthood before they became millionaires.
Well, they didn't. I mean, they were 18, 19 years old, most of them.
But I mean, it's
they're all-
stunted. It's stunted there. That's what I'm getting at. I know they were young when they got it, but I think it stunted their development.
No, I agree. I think that, I mean, how can you turn into a man when you were being awarded for how you were acting as a child? So there's no room for growth.
And then those people are going to become owners.
Yeah, I think really, if I had to, again, I've never been in this position, but I think when a lot of, I'm not saying everyone in the NBA, but a lot of the entitled players over the history of the NBA, I think they really start growing up once they leave the league. That's kind of like for regular people. I think you really grow up once you have a kid. I think before then, it's not that you're not growing up per se, and I'm not saying this for people that don't have children, but there's that next level of life that you have when you have a kid. And I think in respect to the NBA as an analogy, that once they leave and they leave the start and they leave getting this exorbitant amount of money, then I think they just have to make decisions to outside of just being paid money to play basketball. And I think it's something that I agree with you, AOH. Yeah.
I mean, I think that the analysts, I think the broadcasters, the mainstream media, a lot of those guys have more accountability than the fans do, because that's why we're here. That's why they call us all heads. Because back in the day, you had to actually watch the games. You were actually a true fan of basketball. It wasn't necessarily you were a fan of the NBA. I tell people all the time, there's no basketball, right? There's no game without the players, right? If the guys just walked out, there would be no game. You need players to have a game. But there's no NBA, there's no paid professional league without the fans, man. So the fans are obviously there. They're watching the games. They're buying the jerseys. Maybe not the same rate that they used to be, but they're still there. They're fans of basketball, man. I'm a fan of basketball. I play basketball. I love basketball. The problem is that how do we love the game more than the guys that are playing it? It don't make no sense. And that's the feeling that we have now, is that we love the game more than they do. So when you're on the YouTube channel and we're doing these Sunday shows and I got people yelling at me, oh, this guy is always yelling. Oh, this guy's always yelling. This guy this guy's that. It's called passion that I have for something that I grew up watching. So I tell people the same thing over and over again. I'm setting the record straight here, and I'm stopping them from rewriting the history of the NBA. And the reason why that started happening is because everyone must continue to tear down these past eras to lift up the current players. That was never the case in any previous era that I remember. And that's the main problem. So it's not just the fans, because the true fans like us who are actually trying to set the record straight. We're trying to actually educate people out there so they can have their own opinions on things. Wherever you have guys ranked is irrelevant. The one thing that we should all agree on, whether you're a LeBron James fan or not, is that the game is not being played the way it should be being played. And these guys are not playing with the same level of passion, like we mentioned, the same level of effort, the same level of love, the same level of respect. They don't carry themselves with the same level of integrity, the same level of honor. And like we mentioned, they're not being true professionals. So we should all agree that no matter who you root for, they should all be held to that same standard as professional athletes. And that's the problem. These guys don't want to be held to that standard, so they lash out at us. They tell us that we're a bunch of clowns, and they come on their podcast and they make fun of us.
So are you guys good to take a couple of calls? I'm not going to take it from Young Disciple because he's throwing out, racial terms.
Let him call up. I guarantee he ain't calling up.
No, don't give people it was bad enough that I acknowledged him today. Shame on me for acknowledging these idiots, but especially if he's dropping racial.
I'm ready to do it, man.
Yeah,
I
don't
got
let
like
him
30
do that
minutes.
on stream. You could get it taken down or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not letting Young
Just an
Disciple on
FYI.
that. Yeah,
I don't know who this guy is. Have I missed something here? I missed the
It's an
Inside
FYF
Baseball.
burner account.
He follows everybody right. He was on me on AOH live stream earlier.
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's a regular troll of the channel.
Yeah, he's one of
our.
our fans. He's a fan. He's here to be
Hey, shout out to
educated.
the
We're
trolls,
actually
man.
educating him.
Hey,
Shout out to the trolls, man.
We're living rent free in your head, bro.
Ah,
Yeah.
Welcome, Hawks. How are you, sir? Hello.
Hey, salute. Hey,
Yo.
salute.
What's up?
Good. Hey, thanks for letting me join the panel. I got a very important point. Something that I got.
You're cutting in and out.
Someone's got an echo.
Well, it can't be the guy that joined.
I think it's
Someone
on
gotta
your
go on
end,
mute.
House.
Someone got to go on mute.
Hey, you got to move on.
No,
This is taking
Yeah,
too long.
House. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You got to figure out your thing, but
call back, man.
yeah.
Hey,
Anyway.
did you guys?
Dart won't say it. I'll say it, right? You got to come correct with your audio, guys. Like, put in the headphones, come in right. Make sure you have a working mic or your phone, however you're doing it. Just please come ready and prepared. That's all I'm going to say. I'm done. Rant over.
Nick, just let whoever in next. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Did you guys hear LeBron James's last press conference before he disappeared? He sounded like a 5-year-old in counseling. That the counselor was trying to get an answer out of him. He's just like, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't care.
All right, Haas is back.
Okay.
All right, Haas, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, how we doing? Just want to make sure How are we doing? I just want to make sure there's no echo.
Yeah, you're
Something that's
good.
been on my mind. Damn it! Do I still got an echo?
No, just go.
Right, I'll call back on a different device.
All right. All right. What AOH you're saying about LeBron?
He's taken whining to a new level. Like he can't even answer the press. He was like mumbling and just being like, I don't care. Just whatever you think.
He's not as bad as JJ Redick out there. Have you seen JJ Redick in these post games, man?
Well,
Oh
JJ
my
Redick-
God. This
JJ
guy
has
looks like he's trying to squint through and see through the wall. He looks like, I don't know what he's doing out there. He's stumbling and bumbling.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. Sports and fitness. You talking about Mind the Blame? Socrates that knows everything about basketball?
That's
He's
right,
not
who
bad.
God.
Not
That
him.
guy's forgotten how to talk. I
Yup.
mean, he is a disaster.
He's supposed to be a college-educated grown man. This guy can't answer a simple question.
And it's consistent. I
All right,
saw his
we're gonna
most
try
recent
Haas
one.
We're gonna try Haas one more time.
Okay,
All right, Haas,
salute.
go.
All right, I'm calling in from another device, so this is going to work a lot better. Okay, so this is a very important comment. It's something that's been on my mind for a long time, okay? What really starting to wear on my nerves real thin here is that the millennial generation and the Zoomer generation. Both of those generations, they look down upon, say, Generation X, which is the generation that watched Michael Jordan grow up and Larry Bird and Magic, and they say that, oh, we're just being nostalgic, and they're the true purveyors of basketball. But
Oh, Haas, you cut out.
That's enough. We can feed off of that because
Yeah, that was a good point.
we didn't become nostalgic until current NBA became unwatchable. And then you're like, Jesus, I remember when this was enjoyable. You know, it's not like we refused to ever move on. I went through several players and several great playoff runs of the NBA post Michael Jordan. And people enjoyed Michael Jordan when he replaced Magic and Larry. We weren't always bullheadedly nostalgic. Your shitty product is what causes people to start reflecting on what they don't have anymore. If the current product is great, you don't act that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the millennials either, because, you know, as one myself, I don't really get that. I feel like most millennials think Jordan is the GOAT. I think that would be the result of that poll. Now, later millennials, maybe there's a little bit more of a LeBron shade or hue to it in terms of what they think of the greatest of all time. But I would think most millennials, if they're basketball fans and you are a millennial and you grew up playing or watching basketball, you should remember what that was like, in my opinion, I guess, is where I'm coming from as a millennial, right? I remember playing ball and it was inside out, man to man, hard-nosed defense. It's either like a full court or you're picking up your man at half court, right? That's what I remember playing up in, right? And I remember the players who were good at the time, you know, even Shaq and Jordan and Hakeem and all that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I disagree. Maybe I'm just trying to defend millennials here. I feel offended.
I think what Haas is alluding to, man, and I don't know, I can't speak for him, whatever, but when he's talking about the purveyor, right? When he's using that word, I think what he's trying to say is how the people of those, you know, and listen, we can, you know, if we want to be technical, oh, if you were born in this year to this year, you're a millennial. If you're born in this year to this year, you're a Generation X. If you're born from this year to this. So, yeah, we can be technical and be like, oh, I'm on the edge of the millennials or I'm on the edge of Generation X. The main sense that I think he's trying to say is when we're being called old heads, what they're alluding to is this idea that we don't know what we're talking about. That we're just crying and moaning and we're tearing these guys down today because, like you said, we're being nostalgic about the players in the past. That, how could you think that or say that? Once again, we're speaking from a place of knowledge. When I'm speaking to guys on my channel and I'm saying that I'm setting the record straight, what I always tell them is I'm saying these things and I'm giving you guys the perspective of someone who grew up watching basketball at that time. It wasn't, I didn't have computers and stuff like that. I literally watched the game. That's the only way I know these guys. I don't know them any other way. The things that I'm learning now, having access to this kind of information at my fingertips, the things I'm finding out about these guys now only confirms what I already thought about them. That confirmed that confirmation I had came from the video footage. But I can speak on the comparisons from an 80s, 90s perspective to what guys are doing today because I watched all of this stuff. When guys say, oh, Michael Jordan couldn't go left, we're done with the 90s. When you say that, you clearly let me know that you did not watch the NBA or you didn't grow up watching those times. To watch the NBA at that time, I'm telling you guys to be alive, to actually understand, be old enough to watch this stuff live. It's not the same as going back now and watching Michael Jordan on YouTube. Yes, you can get the sense, you can watch full games, you can understand the game, you can learn the game, yes. But it's not the same feeling, man. I'm telling you guys right now, when we talk about the golden era, people don't get it. They're never gonna understand it. But we're speaking from a place of love. I respect the game. So I'm holding all these guys to a standard. They've lowered the standard for the guys today. That's the problem.
All right, we got CJ real quick, and then Dart, you can take back over. CJ, you got a question or comment?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have a question per se. I just wanted to comment on the degradation of the league like you guys have been doing. I think the main point of it all is just the lack of competition. It's the lack of competition is what's destroying this league. And people can make a generational divide about it all they want, but as someone of a foreign background, I watch a lot of European soccer, and the young kids in European soccer compete. They want to be out there. If you leave them on the bench, they're going to be mad. There's a divide that they're trying to wedge to blame it on. And my culprit is LeBron James. If you look at how they're marketing him now, year 22, as a washed superstar, when we have all these talented players in the league and they're trying to convince you that he's still the best, it's just another symptom of LeBron James, of the degradation of the league, the degradation of competition. They don't even let these players compete for the face of the league anymore. He just gets it, no matter what age he is. That's the symptom. So now the players, they can't compete for glory. They can't really compete for, all they can really fall back on is money, really. Money and lifestyle of debauchery, really. That's why we're seeing all these baby mamas. We see, you know what I'm saying? It's just foolish. And I hate when people like FYF try to blame it on, oh, these players are business minded, these players are smart. No, these players are lazy and their spirit is broken because they understand, like we understand, that the league is pushing LeBron James. You think these players don't understand that? That's really all I wanted to say.
Yeah, the one thing I'll just real quick, one thing I do criticize LeBron on is I feel like he has not done a good job being a good ambassador to the next generation of young players. That's one thing that's really drives me crazy. He doesn't give shout outs or lift guys up, and he went deeper than that. But I'll just say that's one thing I think he has not done a good job on objectively.
Think
No, that's
about what
it
he
makes-
did. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but think about what he did with Quincy Olivari. He took a picture with him talking about, oh, they're going to know your name now, and he buried him in the G League. Now, people can say, oh, he's not responsible for that, but at the same time, you guys are complaining about bench depth. Shout out to AOH. But you have Quincy Olivari rotting in the G League because you don't want to, you know what I'm saying? It's just, anyways, I'm going to just step back.
No, listen, you're on the money when you talk about putting responsibility at LeBron James. Let's think about some of the slam dunk contests that people completely forgot about. Look where the slam dunk contest has gone to. That is directly in correlation with LeBron James refusing to ever do the slam dunk contest. If Dr. J never did the slam dunk contest, do we think that maybe Michael Jordan wouldn't do it? If Michael Jordan never did the slam dunk contest, maybe Kobe Bryant never does it. Maybe Vince Carter never does it. Because why would they do it? Michael Jordan didn't want to do it because maybe Michael Jordan didn't want to hurt his foot. Remember, Michael Jordan broke his foot and still did the slam dunk contests. He wasn't like, well, I'm not going to do the slam dunk contest because I don't want to hurt my foot. I want to build up my brand. LeBron James literally refused to do a slam dunk contest when you're a freak athlete because he didn't want to get hurt. He didn't want to possibly get embarrassed or lose because he knows he has no creativity. But what he did by making that move was single-handedly destroy the slam dunk contest. So now what you had down the road, it materialized to now what do we have? A lot of the big-time players, the big-name stars, they won't do the slam dunk contest. Has anybody seen Zion Williamson in the slam dunk contest yet? I haven't seen him in a slam dunk contest. No one's going to do it because of guys like LeBron James, man. These guys, LeBron James competed in 2, not 1, but 2 skills challenges for when to do a slam dunk contest.
Hey,
I saw Zion Williamson eating Cheetos at the dunk contest. Anyway. Hey, wait, you were saying something? I just wanted to put that jab in there.
Yeah. And you know what? That's not really acceptable these days. We lived in naivety and ignorance when we were growing up, or at least I did. But these guys know better than to be eating that shit nowadays. I mean, we have the studies, we have the proof that it's like not just not good for you, but literally bad for you. And as a pro athlete, don't just stop doing that. But that's not what I really wanted to talk about. LeBron James excuse making people will say things like, "Oh, you can't blame all of this on LeBron James." But what you can do is have someone who comes to mind when you see an example of someone behaving in a bad way, whether it's somebody today that doesn't want to compete, whether it's somebody today that wants to hop to a super team, whether it's somebody who walks off the court early. Who comes to mind? Who comes to mind as setting the precedent for that shit? Like, you don't want to blame LeBron James, and yet he's the person who comes to mind when you think about who made those types of behaviors. I don't want to say popular, but it's certainly when you started seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Big facts. And if you just think about his career, what AOH is saying is spot on. He didn't make the playoffs his rookie year. Carmelo did. Carmelo had similar numbers, similar impact. he gets Rookie of the Year. You reward losing because you want to promote him. He cheats the game, goes to a super team in Miami. You give him 2 MVPs on a super team. Disregard everyone else who's working the game properly, who's competing. You're just giving it to him. So you basically rewarding him being a loser. So people are always talking about Steph Curry ruined the game. How does Steph Curry ruin the game? By just taking advantage of his gifts. What ruined the game was LeBron James being who he is, being a non-competitive bum, and Adam Silver just being a trash commissioner, just letting everything slide. When you have those two factors combining, you have what we have today. They're talking about, oh, well, the streaming numbers, they don't account for streaming numbers for ratings. But people like me who's been watching the NBA religiously since 2003, used to watching my uncle, my older cousin. I'm very competitive. I can't watch this anymore because these players are not competing. It's obvious. But they want to make every excuse to point it off of LeBron James to put it on Steph Curry just because people are shooting threes. They don't understand. People are shooting threes because Adam Silver is a geek. And he let people like Daryl Morey convince him that, hey, the three-pointer is worth more than the two-pointer if you take more. And they basically rewarded that behavior throughout the league. And what do you get? A three-point shooting contest every night.
Yep. And it's dangerous. I love that you brought up, the fake accolades that LeBron has gotten while being a bad example, but they were still crowning him with these things that he didn't deserve. And you can see the fruits of planting those false seeds today, because what do you have? You have a person like a Stephen A. Smith trying to convince people, oh, but he's still, I'll never say LeBron James isn't the greatest because look at these MVPs and look at this and that. And it's all fake. These are all fake awards. I mean, he didn't actually earn them. And yet now, in order to explain away his current mediocrity, people are saying you can't criticize somebody who has all of these awards. Isn't that convenient that you gave him all these awards that he didn't earn, and now you're using those awards to defend the fact that he still doesn't look like a great basketball player?
I mean, I think LeBron definitely in the past, I think that for a couple of those years, definitely, I think he at least was considerable to win those MVPs. But how they've been talking about him, I think, I'm not saying this is more to your point, but I completely agree with how they've been talking about him over the last 4 or 5 years. When you can look and see that he's not playing the defense well, he's not being awarded all of these awards anymore with the defense specifically. It looks a lot worse, but they're still talking about how he's still the best in the league. But it seems, when you watch it, that's on the defensive side specifically, let alone a lot of the offensive things that he used to do because he's just plainly getting older. I don't understand how they still talk about him as one of the best in the league. I think I've heard that some people are still saying he's a top 5 player in the league, and he's still one of the better players in the league. But I don't think he's a top 5 player. He's probably a top 20, top 15, top 20 player. I think there's a real argument that you could say that 10 guys are better than him.
Well, you go back to CJ's opening statement about how the rest of the league must feel when they all know deep down that they're always going to be competing for second place, even though they're better than the guy that the league is putting in first place. Yeah, that can't be a terribly motivating situation to be in. And you also mentioned how LeBron James doesn't give props or try to lift up other players. That's the behavior of an insecure person. If you believed in yourself and your greatness, you don't have any problem complimenting other people. But when you deep down know that you're not that great, you're scared of making other people look good.
Yeah, it really feels like he doesn't want to pass the torch at all, which I know is obvious. I'm saying the obvious, I know, but.
Well, no, if you guys look at, and I had to do some, I had to do some thorough research, just to be able to substantiate this. But LeBron was always insecure and was jealous of Kobe Bryant, and here's why. Now, remember when he said, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach? I just so happened to go back and watch when Kobe announced that he was going into the NBA. He said, I'm going to forego college. Now watch this. I'm going to take my talents to the NBA. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe that's just a coincidence. I don't need to read too far into it. All right. Next thing, when Kobe Bryant came back from the Achilles injury, remember, he put out a long Instagram message. He was like, first he thought about retiring, blase, blase, blase. Then he was like, nah, I can't go out like that. And this is how he ended it. He said, if you see me in a fight with a bear, help the bear.
Yeah.
So when LeBron James defeats the Memphis Grizzlies, who are, I would say, a young, precocious team, he feels so confident that he says, if you see me in a fight with if you see me fighting a Grizzly, help the bear. Really, man? I was like, yo, this dude really is trying to mimic Kobe Bryant. And then it's no coincidence he gets eliminated by the Golden State Warriors. Now he's going to LA.
That's a mystical line. What song was that? What song was that when he mystical when he said, if you see me fighting a bear, help the bear? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know if it was the Man Right Here or if it was Here I Go. It was on one of those. I know the verse you're talking about. But I'm just looking like AOH said, like, yo, this dude, he's really insecure. Like, he feared Kobe Bryant. Like, I see that in real time now.
All right.
On the topic of Kobe, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo what Hoop guy said on the topic of Kobe Bryant. We see how much work he puts in with Clutch to try to bury Kobe Bryant's legacy. It's profound when you see the current state of the league and how many Kobe fans there are in the league. How many people who have inherited Kobe's will per se. They haven't inherited his work ethic, but they appreciate his game. They appreciate his style. You don't really see that with LeBron James. When you see taller young players growing up like Kion Anthony, they look up to Paul George. You know what I'm saying? They don't even look up to a winner. They just look up to Paul George. They look up to anybody else but LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? It's just, of course he wants to bury Kobe.
That's a good point, man. Good point. They've lowered the standard out there, man. Like I said, man, they don't even care. They don't hold their players to any standard. They don't care. They don't care what LeBron James does. I mean, think about it. These guys, you can't even buy a jersey anymore. If you buy a jersey of your favorite player, you don't know where he's going to be next season, the year after that. I mean, it's really crazy how these guys are just bouncing around. Like you said, there's no competitiveness from a lot of these guys. It's insane.
Yeah, and like another thing we talked about earlier is like how do you stop these guys from talking behind closed doors on what their salaries might be so they can both be on a team, etc. Like how do you stop players from doing that too? That'd also be another thing I'd wonder.
So I think we're starting to wind down here.
Yeah, I gotta get going myself.
Yeah, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for calling in, CJ. I appreciate your input. And I'm gonna get you off here before we
thanks
start.
for calling in, man.
No problems. I love the show. See y'all.
Thanks, CJ.
Take it easy, bro.
All right, I think it was a great discussion. I just want to add that I'm going to be doing a debate tonight if it doesn't get canceled again. Bob Cousy versus Steph Curry. You can guess who I'm arguing for. Who's greater? It'll be on a Casual Sports Fans channel. I'll put the link in. I'll put it in a community page. But yeah, go check it out if you're interested, and go check out his channel. He's got a lot of good stuff. But thank you all for coming.
You got to represent for the OG Cousy now.
I want to bring the heat. I don't know if I'm going to win, but in respect to the judging, but I'm going to win the argument. I'm going to win the argument. I just don't know if they're going to give it to me. So I know I'm going to win it because the facts show that Cousy's greater than Curry, outside of just recency bias, which is fine. But but I think that's what I'm going to come up against. Nick, do you have anything for the people before we get out of here?
No, nothing for the people. Fun as always.
You got anything, Robin?
Oh, man, that's going to be a tough debate. Like I said, when you told us about it, I don't know. I mean, who's the great player, man? But, much respect for you for always taking these debates, dog, man. I don't know how you guys do this, man. But much respect to you as usual, man. And once again, shout out to everybody in the comments, everybody that came through in the chat. Thank you to anyone who's donated to our channels, all you guys with the support, calling in. We really appreciate it. Like I said, I love doing the Sunday shows, man. So once again, Nick, it was great to be here again with you. Hoop God, thanks for coming through. I know AOH is not here right now, but shout out to AOH. And Dart, once again, thanks a lot, man, for always doing this, man. I really appreciate it. So shout out to all you guys, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Hoop God.
Man, just enjoyed another great episode, man. You know, it's always good to have like minds, you know, come together and share insight. And just to end it off, man, hey, ain't no cap in our rap.
If you see me fighting the bear, help the bear. Anyway.
Hey, just make sure you don't see Shannon Sharp when he needs honey.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, chat. Thank you, CJ and Haas, for calling up. All y'all on the panel, thank you as usual. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, check us out next week. We'll probably do a Christmas special, maybe greatest Christmas games of all time or something Christmas themed. I don't know yet, but anticipate that. And you'll get to see my Christmas song that Politicus Rex wrote last year. I'll play it at the end of the movie, or excuse me, at the end of the show. You guys aren't aware of this Christmas song?
I guess I forgot about it.
Oh.
All right. It's going to be at the end of the video, just for the purpose of Christmas spirit. But yeah, thank you all for coming. And Michael Jordan fans are the best.